Bauer, for your lively words.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite Lieutenant General in Reserves, Mr. Benny Gantz, a second generation of Holocaust survivors who studied at a national religious school called Shafir in Or Etzion and fought as a brigade commander in the First Lebanon War and went through in all the campaigns and wars and in the special forces training in the United States. In July 2001, he was promoted to Major General in various commands. He was also the Washington military attaché and the commander of the Northern Command. In February 2011, he was appointed as the 20th Chief of General Staff of the IDF and was a commander of Protective Edge. And at the end of December 2018, it's so far away, he announced that he's going to join the political ranks and establish the Chosun Resilience Party and then the Kachol Levan, the Blue and White Party. In these elections, they received 35 seats in the Knesset. He was not only in the 21st election campaign, but also will be in the 22nd election campaign in September. Whatever you do, I'll just have to adapt the height in accordance with my height. Good morning, one and all. I'm delighted to be here. But before addressing you, I have to say something. To my chagrin, we heard of the death of Solomon Taka from the Ethiopian ethnic community when policemen not in uniform decided to interfere because he felt threatened in a fight, and the young man was shot to death. Unfortunately, these kind of events bring such anger, especially amongst the Ethiopian community, but in all of us. We do not want to see people killed in our streets in this kind of event, especially not this kind of sensitive moment. A policeman who takes upon himself the responsibility and ends so badly and so tragically. The only way to grapple with that, I believe, should be founded on 3 pillars. The first one is an inquiry which is transparent. Secondly, looking at all the results. And third, calling upon a calming of all those. And I think we should embrace all the Ethiopian community. It's a challenge, but a very important ethnic community that has joined us here. We should embrace all of us together and strive for the truth together and unify ourselves together, unite together, whatever happens, whatever the results and the outcome of that inquiry is. This conference today said that we should change a course. Time to change a course in the Middle East. That is the title. And we're not talking about one change, but many a change that have continued challenging Israel and the entire region. Those threats that I have come across closely over the years as the Chief of General Staff and as a commander in the army. Perhaps we saw the proof in Syria this morning that has turned into an enemy, unstable country wherein Iranian forces are entrenching themselves, and therefore this actually forces Israel, because of the leakage of various weaponry, to intervene from time to time. This threat has really been empowered over the years, and it's very important to preserve our capabilities against it and also to actually show them who we are. and deter them. But in the past, we had various maneuvering armies, rockets, katyushas, tunnels, cybers, and incendiary balloons, and God knows what's going to happen tomorrow morning. But one thing should be clear to all of us: the need of the State of Israel to retain its deterrence capability, its defense capabilities, and leave in its hands the capability of a decisive, always victory. Beyond just that is so important our capability to use those arms and artillery and weaponry that we have built up. And we have seen recently in Gaza, this has proven to us that the foundations that Ben-Gurion built his national security perception on are being corroded. If it's the deterrence, instead of the deterrence, now it's just stuttering, and it does not show them our true force and what our capabilities are. This gnaws away at our security, especially, for example, the Gaza Strip area border communities. And this has been going on for a year and a half, this terrible reality wherein they live in the shadow of all these tunnels, rockets, incendiary balloons. And the damage does not stop just there. It isn't actually impacting only the southern localities, but as a result of this policy, there are ramifications on additional arenas. In Iran, they are following this, and the weakness under the leadership of Bibi Netanyahu in Gaza and in Syria and other places actually shows us weakness, and it makes them more determined to really intervene here in this region. This weakness, this lack of readiness to use force when needed, I am obligated to change. I am standing here as someone who built the actual binding of that force against Iran, for example. You read about in the paper. I know from very close up our operational capabilities and the programs that were consolidated in accordance. There is not one modus operandi that I did not participate in its preparation while I filled various roles. I am totally aware of the fact that the steps that were taken in the IDF and outside, under the responsibility of the IDF and the Ministry of Defense, ensured that Iran would not reach its nuclear maturity when it could have. So anything that is connected to the fate of the State of Israel, we have to make sure that IDF is ready to act should there be a need in any theater, in any place. And I can say with full confidence that when we actually come instead of that government and I head it, believe me, we will prevent any such thing happening, any such scenario. We have to act for an international cooperation so that we will be able to detrimentally affect all those capabilities in Iran. We have to use all those intel and other capabilities, because they are the ones in parallel that will help us be prepared at any given moment. We have to do so with responsibility, with determination, and keep our credibility. We shouldn't go overboard and make false promises, but we have to ensure that we are ready to act and to have those ties with other countries in confidentiality, but be prepared and ready. Now, these are not just threats. This is an actual plan that is in action, because against an enemy like Iran, we should never blink and think a number of times, but we need to act when necessarily. Talk less, do more. And This approach is the same in the Gaza Strip. For many a year, I've been reiterating this mantra that campaigns one does when one can, and wars one carries out when it is necessary. And between these campaigns, one continues carrying on, preparing the preparedness, but when it is necessary, then we need to take steps, for example, like in a state of war. And in Gaza, we need to act. The Prime Minister doesn't want to do it. Each time, the different considerations, once it's elections, once it's something else. We have to say in a very clear-cut manner that Netanyahu's policy has brought about an erosion in the ties in with what is happening with Gaza, arousing terrible anger amongst the people in those border communities. And you can see how this is being expressed everywhere in the media. Their sense of belonging to us is now being corroded, and this truly has a detrimental effect on our own resilience. And the feeling in those Gaza areas is the worst possible. In Protective Edge, we led it with the Prime Minister Netanyahu and Ya'alon, the Minister of Defense, and we did achieve together many years of a lull and calm. But it is very, very important, and I would like to congratulate Netanyahu and the others. But since then, nothing has been really done in order to give incentives to really retain that peace and calm without thinking about long-term terms at all, because nothing political has been brought about as a kind of foundation to ensure that this peace will continue for many years ahead. Tens of millions of dollars under his auspices of Netanyahu, millions of dollars in suitcases have been transferred to the Gaza Strip. This is a failed kind of attempt to buy lull and calm and hudnas with money. So after so many attacks, I was there after so many visits. I was there at the end of this week after there were 110 incendiary balloons and devices with explosive devices that were launched from the Gaza Strip. I met devoted but very anxious residents of that area. I didn't see Netanyahu visiting there. All that area around the Gaza, with such chivalry, with such courage and valor, are grappling with this situation day in, day out. A kindergarten teacher have to teach children between 3 and 5-year-olds, have to be taught. Can you imagine what it's like? Think about children who have started wetting their beds at night once again. And about the parents and their anxiety and concern who need to work. I'm talking about real heroism. Never, ever poo-poo or denigrate those people because they are working under that onus, such a burden upon their shoulders. And I would like to congratulate all those residents and all the leadership there for the way they are standing with such courage and heroism. But this kind, everything that is happening, the ignoring of the state of Israel against them, the leadership, the real leaders should have stood there with integrity, said what he thinks, what he should do, reinforces them, explains things to the residents. I know you can't say everything. And I know that the Prime Minister, when he did go to Sderot or to one of the localities, or when he does go there, it won't be simple to explain things, but that is what leadership is called. You need to go there, be there, talk to the people. But to my chagrin, the Prime Minister is not really interested in the security situation in the south. He simply doesn't have the courage to look them in their eyes. He's busy. He's busy in order to save himself, in order to survive. And as I said, it's a quotation from an article that was written by Itai in Kfar Aza, in one of those Bordeaux communities. He said, I am a right-winger in my opinions, but I will not vote for Netanyahu. He's no longer a right-winger. He has various security arrangements with terror organizations, and people have started to understand what he is doing. Or, for example, one Adele's a resident from Nirim, also in that same area, really do convey the feeling and the emotions of people who feel that they have been neglected and forsaken by their government. And they're saying to the Prime Minister, we know where we live, listen to us, we know how hard it is here, but do not forsake our security, do not ignore us. So the questions that we need to ask ourselves is not how do we remove an incendiary kite or an incendiary balloon and the explosive device, or destroy a tunnel that the Hamas built. Yes, they are very, very important questions that the IDF needs to do so in all earnest, and they did so in the past and will do so in the future. But on a level and status of the higher echelons of the country, they have to be on an upper level of strategy. How does one create deterrence, and not just the nitty-gritty details? So how, when there is peace, do you change the entire strategic steps? You do not only need to use force projection, but you need to return deterrence, and I know how to do that. And I intend to launch a different strategic security process that will be based on a number of pillars. Two main central ones on the military side, that is returning the deterrence to the area. We don't need to conquer the whole area. We can actually destroy specific, pinpointed, targeted targets. And when we achieve that deterrence and that calm, then we need to sit down in earnest, seriously, and just like in the Pillar of Defense campaign, we sat down with the military command of Hamas, and you can actually enhance the power and not allow an escalation without reacting to it vehemently. And when the deterrence returns, then we can make arrangements and settlements in the area, but not before we bring back Adar Goldin and Shaul Aron, our MIAs, the three in Megiddo. Then we need regional arrangements so that we can develop the economic infrastructure then in Gaza to give them some light at the end of their tunnel of despair. And we ought to tell them, here, you have a possibility to live differently. If you're against the force projection, then your life and your quality of life should be improved. Things should be done in all that improvement in a very ongoing, consistent manner, not through suitcases of money that have nothing other than vitamin P and protection and cronyism to those who need it. So this must carry on with the support for the people in the border localities near the Gaza Strip. And I have said, and I reiterate from this podium, I said that those who live there, Sderot, Ashkelon, and in those localities, those at the front line of Israel, we have to make a kind of situation that we never disconnect in a routine manner. We have to be consistently in contact with them. And I've said to the people from Ashkelon as well, we need to have a kind of national priority area there so they'll be able to grapple with their economic challenges, their security challenges. They should be upgraded from the point of view of the security risk that they're living under. They are there for us. We will be there for them the entire time in a routine manner. But, dear friends, all those who know what these security risks and threats are, and there are many in the audience because I managed to see you as you came in, thus I also am very familiar with them, and I will never look down upon them or poo-poo them, and I don't think that anyone does. They all know what the true risks are. But I would like to underpin here that in addition to finding solutions and constructing them, you need to treat the various internal components of Israeli society, our resilience and the way we stand from a social point of view. That resilience, that is an inseparable part of our national security. I would need an entire lecture to talk only about that component of social resilience and how this has such deep implications on our security situation. But we need to understand just one thing, that we need to take very vital steps towards that. And there is another thing. We need to empower that sense that we care, that the citizens should feel that they interest us. And the residents of Israel should know, especially in the south, that the government of Israel visits them, goes there, is within their communities, fighting for them, cares about them, concerns them, and wants to return the lull and the peace to them, like everyone in the state of Israel is eligible and has a right to, not only in days of routine, but of course in days of emergency. And there are those that I have mentioned. There are so many components, and there are others that I did not enumerate here. Everyone should have their needs met by the IDF and the security forces. Vis-a-vis this response and these needs, we must ensure that the strategic elements are actually worked with. We're talking about a very stable strategy and a capability of assault and deterrence and social solidarity. They are those that will enable the cohesion and the resilience to stand steadfast and face any challenge. That caring, that concern, that unity, that inner clout and force is something that I intend to fight for, and for that I will win.